So what's happening in IT lately? So it is still one of the fast changing industries in the world. It has, this morning I checked on sig.com.au and there's over 14,000 jobs in Australia that they seek in IT professionals. And I believe so there's still not so many IT colleges offering, I'm gonna say not enough vocational colleges that they offer IT courses. Trends, they are like huge lately in cybersecurity, which we get in more and more attacks nowadays. There's a lot of malwares out there. So for professional people with the skills how to secure and protect our networks, it's one of like really important jobs out there. Then there's artificial intelligence, where big data is like more and more important factor. Even in cybersecurity, let's say endpoint protections, they're using huge data sets to quickly analyze files and to determine is it a malicious file or it's trusted executable file. And a huge thing is as well nowadays public cloud. One of them, of course, AWS is one of the most popular clouds. Then we have Azure from Microsoft, and Google is getting more and more trends as well. What I liked in Gartner as their magic quadrants. So what Gartner is they are actually leading research and advisory company, and they created this magic quadrant methodology where we can see different vendors, how they perform on a market and how they compete with other vendors. So today, this webinar is going to be everything about ICTNWK529 unit, which is install and manage complex ICT networks. It is very comprehensive unit. It has a lot of components, and what I like it most is it has like a very hands-on learning experience to get out of it. It's perfect for students who wish to become network engineer or a systems administrator. The performance criteria requires to cover like various of IP protocols from DNS, routing, internal VPNs. It requires as well to have multi-site setup and sharing services between the networks. It's asking as well to implement security and automation that can be, I don't know, virus checking, updates, so operating system updates and desktop management policies. It's asking as well to configure remote access and remote management tools, which can be used tools like remote desktop RDP in Windows or PuTTY if we wish to connect to Linux servers, and in Windows Server there's as well integrated already server manager. Without saying, they asking as well to troubleshoot things. I believe this is not something that you need to set traps. Students, they're gonna most likely get into troubles and they'll need to solve the problems. So there's always this troubleshooting component that you don't need to plan. IT is always there that some certain things break down and we just need to figure out how to solve it. And in this unit, there's as well like a little trick that they threw in. It's about Voip, so voice communications. So here it's as well students, they need to implement and configure some Voip phones and as well configure some voice codecs. After reading performance criteria from the training packages, we designed something like this. So we said we're gonna have two sites, one in Sydney and one overseas in Boston. Boston is going to be a site where is going to reside at Active Directory. So that's going to be as a directory services. And in Sydney, we're going to have actually a phone system server where it's going to reside in this network. So our objective is going to be to establish a secure connection between the sites, meaning that computer located in Sydney, we're going to be able to connect into Boston and vice versa. Yeah. Second thing is as well, we're going to connect Sydney's computer to domain controller in Boston. And Boston's client computer is going to be able to communicate with a Voip server in Sydney. So that means that computers in Sydney and Boston, they're going to be able to make calls. As you can see, networking is quite a little bit complicated. We have a lot of components. We have 2 firewalls, 1 internet broker, and we have 2, I'm going to say we have 4 networks. So here's 1, here's second one. This is for internet. And then we have as well internal networks. And we have actually altogether 7 virtual machines, all those 4 up here and the internet. So setup is quite complicated. One beauty is that from here we can have like a multiple learning scenarios. And those scenarios can be from things like, let's integrate web server, and from one site to another will need to be accessible. Or things like, let's do a file server replication between the sites. Let's create some web filtering, port publishing, VoIP telephony, and a lot of other things. So here for lecturers and IT trainers, you can have like really a lot of imagination what you actually wish to do with this network and how do you wish to roll out the curriculum. Because training packages, luckily, they don't lock you down to say, hey, you need to use X, Y, Z. They give you pretty much open hand what you wish to integrate. So this is one really good stuff. All right, and that we're not going to spend too much time on slides. This time I said to myself, hey, as little slides as possible. So I'm going to actually take you to the real demonstration. Okay, I hope everyone can see now my computer. So in other words, we have here again the network diagram that we're going to use it during the demo. And this is a snapshot from the training packages, the performance criteria for this unit. So whatever I actually marked it, this is things that we're going to touch today. Unit is quite comprehensive, but during the time restrictions, we're not going to go through everything. One beauty is about eduLAB, we put everything into a cloud. Meaning this is not something that you need to install on student computers. This is not something that we run some hypervisors on our classroom computers. This is actually the host scenario that is uploaded to our eduLAB cloud, and all you need is a browser. So when student, so we have here one student called John Smith. When this student logs into a portal, he gets presented with the units that he's studying. I'm going to say practical units. And one of the units that we're going to look today is install and manage complex ICT networks. Then the other things could be as well about those communication solutions. And third one as well, configure IPS systems on network sensors. But today we're going to actually have a look about install and manage complex ICT networks. So when I enter the lab, system is going to present me all those virtual machines, all those lab components that I showed you earlier in network diagram. So we can see we have 7 of them. And if I see, I'm going to just move a couple of things. So what do we have here? We have Boston firewall, which is on other side. We have Sydney's firewall down here. We have client computer. We have Boston client computer, and we have in Boston Dns Server. and in Sydney we have Voip server. So this is the servers that we're gonna today a little bit connect, and we're gonna try to configure a few things. Minimize these things, and I'm gonna open. So how it works is, in other words, I'll just say open virtual machine, and this is the windows that they would start popping up. Depends on a virtual machine. And let's go from demo. So on the left side, I have Sydney's computer. On the right side, I have Boston client computer, and up here I have as well Boston Active Directory. So first objective of our lab is going to be that we're going to need to establish a secure IPsec tunnel between two networks. So if I demonstrate and I try to ping a Boston client, let's have a look at the IP of the Boston computer. So Boston client computer is 172.16.16.10. 16.10. We're going to see that I cannot reach this computer, meaning firewalls, they are isolated between each other. And first thing that our objective is going to be, we're going to establish VPN site-to-site connectivity between sites. So I'm going to log into firewall. In this instance, we use Gartner leading vendor, Sophos, which we implemented in this lab. And if I go to VPN, here student would have like a multiple ways to actually establish site-to-site VPN across. We could use standard IPsec tunnel, which is very popular, and most of the time we're gonna see this scenario in real world. Or we can, in this case, I'm gonna just use SSL VPN site-to-site. So from here, for our demonstration purpose, I already pre-configure certain things. So I say, hey, we're coming from Sydney's local network and we're going to connect remotely to Boston. Yeah. And on other side, it was something similar. So if I connect as well to Sophos firewall in Boston, there is a similar configuration. So I'm going to go to VPN, site-to-site. And here we have client, which says I'm going to connect to Sydney. Yeah. So let's try to ping again, and let's see if VPN established across the network. And it did. Now we can actually start. Now we pinged the computer Boston client from the other side. So great, we established the VPN connection. Second part of this demonstration, we're going to set up as well the DNS server. So what we wish to is actually connect Sydney's client computer to Boston Active Directory. And Boston's network is called school.local, yeah? But I believe so if I'm going to ping here school.local, it's not going to know exactly what to do with it. So now we have two options. I could actually change DNS on a computer, or I can ask a firewall to forward requests whoever pings school.local that it actually forwards to my Boston Active Directory. And let's configure this part now. So I'm gonna go to network, DNS, and down here, I'm gonna just leave it resized so we can see better. I'm gonna create one DNS request route. Different vendor calls it different things. In the Windows, we can see that they call it a conditional routing. Let's say we're going to DNS Server. They call it conditional forwarders, where in Sophos firewall, they call it request routes. And here we're gonna call it school.local. And whoever pings this thing, please forward me to Active Directory host in Boston. And if we try again, the thing starts replying. For next part of the demo, we're gonna jump to Boston Active Directory. And let's create a couple of users. So we already pre-configured Active Directory. Mostly like lab, when students get it, they should actually do all those steps from the scratch. But in this case, for demonstration, I already done some work. So let's create a new user. Let's call Jerry. Jerry, the user. Jerry. And password. Okay. After the user is done, so our objective is going to be that any user that connects to Sydney client's computer or Boston client's computer, group policies will do certain things, configuration. So one thing is we're going to set up for automatic updates, meaning that user won't be able to disable things. And we're going to as well put one shortcut, a calculator shortcut on a desktop. And to do so, we're going to use group policies for it. So in group policy, we will go first. Let's set up that Windows will need to automatically update, just to keep them secure. Windows components, and down there should be Windows updates. So group policy is very comprehensive, and most of the time I just Google what I wish to do, and articles points me where to go. This is something that no one's going to remember everything where's what. Configure automatic updates, and we're going to say enable. We're going to say auto download and schedule the install every day at 3 o'clock in the morning, let's say for our example. And second thing is as well, under the user configuration, we're going to say that every user is going to receive a shortcut, calculator shortcut. So here name, we're going to say calc. We're going to put it on a desktop, and target path is going to be, so calculator is located in Windows directory under the system32 system. That's, I think, pretty much it. Yeah. All right. So we created a group policy to do two things: enable automatic updates and put a shortcut on the desktop. Let's try first from Boston's computer if this is true what we set it up. So let's go to Boston. We're gonna hide those guys, the other guys. So Boston is already a member of the domain. So if I say who am I? I'm in a school domain and I am logged in as administrator. Yeah. We're gonna ask computer to get new policies. And we can see already that there's a shortcut that appeared for this user. Let's go as well. Let's log in as well with Jerry's account in. And we have a calculator as well here. Let's see if it works. And it does. That's great. Next part of a quick demo. Let us see. Let's say that we wish to configure a remote desktop outside of the network. we want from Boston to connect to Sydney's computer. So quickly, I'm gonna enable remote desktop on this computer. Remote settings, allow. And we're gonna simulate that we come in from externally. So if I see from this diagram, I'm gonna ask actually the student, the Boston client computer will need to connect through the internet on a public IP address 10.10.10.2, which is from the firewall. So let's quickly configure that. So I connected to Sydney's firewall. I'm going to business application rules. We're going to do some DNetting, RDP access. We're going to put the name of the rule. Source is coming from WAN, end user, and in destination is going to go to our public IP with RDP. I hope it's here, yeah. And protected server. Let me see if I have it here. Client PC Sydney. That's the one, which is in LAN network. And let's log the traffic. So from here, let's try to connect to this IP address. So it's 10.10.10.2. And it asks us for username and password. So let's connect. Administrator, eduLAB. And we just established, we just published a remote desktop protocol to the internet. Let us connect back here, where we were. So do we have, okay, another part of the demo, I just quickly present as well regards the phone calling. Let's see if this thing works. No account. Okay, let's go back to the account that I was before. So phone system is installed on a Sydney site, and we're gonna connect to the web interface. For this demo, I created two extensions. So for two phones, one is 001, which is, I believe, in, I think so, it's here. Yeah, 001 is in Sydney's network, and 002 is in Boston network. And phones, they load up, and if we call from Sydney to Boston, let's see if this thing works. Call failed. We have incoming call, and we see that we were able to establish calls. So this is just a quick demo. Of course, students, they would need to do some light configuration on 3CX, configure as well things like voice codecs, extensions, and virtual phones. And I think this is pretty much all from the demonstration. So does anyone has any questions? Jerry, was there any particular questions? So question was on which hardware we can run eduLAB. As everything, whatever is seen today is, you've seen it was browser-based. All you need to have is HTML5 browser. and that's all that should be installed on, let's say, a student's computers. As from our research and development, we were able to run very smoothly eduLAB portal as well on low power devices such as Raspberry Pis. Raspberry Pis, if you guys don't know, it's a tiny device, runs on ARM microcontroller. The latest version, they're extremely powerful. They have as well dedicated graphical processors, meaning that those devices actually, they can pretty much start replacing kiosks computers, and we hope as well classroom computers. Because once you have everything in a cloud, there's no need to invest into big boxes, big expensive boxes where you can run things in thin clients such as Raspberry Pis. And one part of the demo, whatever we showed as well. So as you can see, we used vendors' software appliances that you most likely students, they're gonna actually meet in a future careers. This is something, let's say, like a Microsoft products of Sophos firewalls, or even Sophos and Fortinet checkpoint firewalls. This is something that students, they're gonna most likely meet with in a workplaces. So we wanted to demonstrate how lab scenarios can contain all those appliances and create, like, for students, better learning outcomes. Is anyone that has more questions? Yeah. We need more information. What do you mean when antivirus stops the processes? In this instance, in this lab, if I show you as well, we installed Sophos endpoint protection, just for example. And we can as well configure firewalls to block if computer is not healthy. Meaning that even from here, we can simulate if students, let's say, they try to access some malicious websites, what does it happen? How does it reject? The thing is that environment is in a cloud, meaning that students are actually local administrators of this environment. In this scenario, we don't block a certain content or certain accesses to the portals. Okay, so that we're not going to hold you. So for guys that you have questions, feel free to email us. So I'm going to just put a PowerPoint presentation back that you're going to get our contacts. So I'd like to thank you for joining our webinar. I hope that information that we provided is going to be useful, and as well that you see the potential of virtual labs. So yeah, once again, yeah, thank you for joining our webinar.